What if a single confession could change two lives forever? Sam begins to feel strange, loss of appetite, discomfort, and the absence of her monthly cycle, leading her to share her worries with Officer Lee. Concerned, Lee turns to his sister, who gently suggests the possibility that Sam might be pregnant and urges him to take her for an ultrasound. With hearts trembling between fear and hope, Sam and Lee find themselves on the edge of a new chapter, torn between anxiety and secret joy. Subscribe now and follow their emotional journey of love, hope, and life-changing possibilities. Sam sat quietly in the living room, her body curled slightly on the sofa, as though she were trying to shield herself from an invisible weight pressing down on her. The evening light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft, golden glow across her face. But even the warmth of the fading sun couldn't hide the unease in her eyes. She pressed one hand against her stomach unconsciously, her slender fingers trembling ever so slightly. For the past few days, she had been feeling strangely unsettled. Waves of nausea came and went, her appetite had vanished, and a heaviness seemed to linger in her chest. At first, she thought it was fatigue or perhaps something she had eaten. But as the days dragged on, she realized something deeper was happening inside her. Lee, who had just returned from work, noticed the pale color of her lips and the way she avoided her plate during dinner. Concern etched lines across his forehead. He set aside his uniform cap and crouched down in front of her, his dark eyes searching hers with quiet intensity. "Sam," he said gently, his voice carrying that steady calm that always made her feel safe. "You haven't been eating properly these days. Is something wrong?" Sam hesitated, her lips parting but no sound coming out at first. She lowered her gaze, as though ashamed of the words she was about to confess. After a long pause, she finally whispered, almost as though afraid to hear herself say it. I feel uncomfortable inside. Nothing tastes good anymore, and I can't bring myself to eat, and it's been a long time since I had my period." The words lingered in the air between them, heavier than either of them expected. Lee froze, his breath catching for a brief second. A dozen thoughts raced through his mind, worry, confusion, and an unfamiliar surge of hope he dared not acknowledge too quickly. He reached out instinctively, taking her hand into his grip firm yet tender, as though anchoring both of them to the moment. "Sam," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. He wanted to reassure her, to ease the storm of uncertainty reflected in her expression, but his own heart was pounding uncontrollably. The possibility that her body might be carrying new life stirred both fear and an unspoken joy. For a moment, neither of them said another word. They simply sat there in silence, hands intertwined, knowing that whatever truth awaited them, it would change their lives forever. Later that evening, when Sam had finally drifted into a light sleep on the sofa, Lee quietly stepped into the kitchen where his older sister was preparing tea. The soft clinking of porcelain cups filled the silence, and for a moment he simply stood there, unsure how to put his swirling thoughts into words. His sister, sharp-eyed as always, caught the troubled expression on his face immediately. "What is it, Lee?" she asked gently, setting the teapot down and folding her arms. Lee exhaled slowly, leaning against the counter as though the weight of the day had grown too heavy to carry alone. "It's Sam," he began, his voice hushed yet urgent. "She hasn't been eating properly. She feels sick, and she told me it's been a long time since her period." The words tumbled out in a rush, and even as he said them, he still felt the disbelief clinging to his chest. His sister's eyes widened, and for a heartbeat, she simply studied him in silence. Then, a knowing smile curved on her lips. "Lee," she said softly, her tone both serious and filled with warmth, "don't you see what this might mean? Sam could be pregnant." The word hung in the air like a spark that lit up the dim kitchen. Pregnant. Lee felt his chest tighten as his sister's suggestion sank in. His mind flashed to the image of Sam resting quietly in the other room, her hand placed protectively on her stomach, as though she already knew what her body was trying to tell her. The idea filled him with both awe and nervousness. "You should take her to the clinic tomorrow," his sister continued, her voice calm and reassuring. "Only an ultrasound can tell you for sure. Don't let her stay in doubt. She needs to know, and you need to be there with her." Lee nodded slowly, his throat tightening with emotion. The thought of becoming a father, of holding a child that carried both his and Sam's blood, was something he had barely dared to dream of. Yet here he was, standing at the threshold of that possibility. He imagined Sam's smile, imagined her holding a tiny baby in her arms, imagined their home filled with laughter. For the first time in weeks, a glimmer of joy broke through the storm of worry inside him. He felt both terrified and profoundly grateful. Turning back toward the living room, he whispered to himself, almost in prayer, "If it's true, then it's the greatest blessing I could ever ask for." When Lee returned to the living room, he found Sam still awake, gazing absent-mindedly at the soft glow of the lamp. Her fingers were laced together tightly on her lap, betraying the nervousness she tried so hard to conceal. The moment their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them, a mixture of fear, hope, and an unshakable bond that words could never fully capture. Lee crossed the room quietly and sat beside her, slipping his hand into hers. "Sam," he began softly, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "I spoke with my sister. She thinks it's possible you might be pregnant." His voice trembled slightly, not out of doubt, but because the possibility carried so much weight. Sam's breath hitched. For a moment, her eyes widened, then lowered shyly as a delicate flush colored her cheeks. "Pregnant," she whispered, almost as if the word itself was too fragile to speak out loud. Her heart raced wildly, and she wasn't sure if it was out of fear or happiness, or perhaps both. She had dreamed in fleeting moments of a life where she and Lee could build a family together, but she had never imagined it might be happening so soon. Lee tightened his hold on her hand, his gaze steady and filled with quiet determination. "Tomorrow, I'll take you for an ultrasound. No matter what the result is, we'll face it together. You don't have to carry this uncertainty alone." His voice was firm now, carrying the weight of a promise, one that wrapped around her like a protective embrace. Tears welled in Sam's eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming tide of emotions crashing inside her. She leaned closer, resting her head against his shoulder, and felt the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. That simple sound was enough to calm her storm, enough to assure her that she wasn't alone in this. In that quiet moment, surrounded by nothing but the stillness of the night, both of them allowed themselves to imagine the possibility. Lee pictured a small crib by their bedside, the laughter of a child echoing through their home, and Sam's radiant smile as she held their baby close. Sam, in turn, imagined Lee's protective arms cradling their child, his steady presence guiding their little family through every storm. Though uncertainty loomed ahead, hope blossomed between them like a fragile but unstoppable flower. With hearts trembling yet secretly rejoicing, they both knew that whatever awaited them tomorrow, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one that could change their lives forever.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Rất vui vì ngày hôm nay lại được gặp lại các bạn trong tập phim ngày hôm nay. Trong tập phim ngày hôm nay thì đã có một tin tức rất là đáng mừng, đó chính là việc Lý Tử Sam thông báo với cảnh sát Nhi rất có thể là cô đang mang thai, vì cô đã có những cái triệu chứng của việc mang thai. Cảnh sát Nhi thì cảm thấy rất là vui mừng, cả hai thì đều hồi hộp và lo lắng, và được lời khuyên của chị gái của các Sunny là sẽ đưa Sam đi khám thai, liệu rằng Sam đã có thai hay không, hay đây chỉ là những triệu chứng của việc cô bị ốm. Tất cả sẽ được hé lộ vào các tập tiếp theo, sẽ được phát sóng vào lúc 7 giờ sáng hàng ngày giờ Việt Nam trên kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Rất cảm ơn các bạn đã luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ kênh. Các bạn hãy nhớ bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo về tập phim mới nhất nhé. Cảm ơn các bạn, xin chào và hẹn gặp lại. Bye bye.